Hey guys, welcome back to Gideon Stuff. Today we're talking about one of my favorite knives of all time. The Cold Steel SRK. Let's do it. Alrighty, so this is going to be, I'm going to count this video as a long-term review. Usually when I do long-term review videos, I have multiple knives featured, but today it's just going to be this guy. And that's because I have a lot to say. This is one of my all-time favorite knives. This knife, I've had this knife for a long time, and as you can see, he has been used, abused, and loved. And long story short, this is a perfect fixed blade. In my opinion, this is the perfect fixed blade. I've used this on the ranch and in the woods as a work knife, a camping knife. Everything you could need a larger fixed blade for. And it's been so good that it's kind of made it hard for me to review other fixed blades. I've said that before, you know. I haven't reviewed a whole lot of fixed blades on my channel because this knife just does everything I want a fixed blade to do. And it's become a real, like during the summers when I work in the woods, this is a real EDC because I carry it every day. The pocket knife I carry switches all the time. I'm constantly swapping what's in my pocket. Because, you know, even though there are pocket knives that I absolutely love, in fact, the one I have on me today is a prime example, another Cold Steel, the 8015, I don't necessarily get super attached to my folding knives the same way I have to this fixed blade. This knife is just, I'm not even sure what to say at this point. It's just become like a friend. It's like a good friend. But I'm deciding to do this video now because he is starting to show his age and show some wear. We have a couple of rust spots. Let's see if we can show this off. It's not going to want to focus quite. It's still focusing on my hoodie. No, not the hoodie. Anyways, we've got some rust spots in the Cold Steel logo there. We've got a couple of rust spots on the SRK, which, you know, that's not bad or anything. The edge is still nice and sharp. I've got a little bit of wiggle with this rubber overmolded handle. You can see there it shakes around a little bit. Like the knife itself is still mechanically solid, but yeah, that rubber overmolded handle starting to wiggle a little bit, which, you know, that's not fantastic. The sheath itself is, I have actually, you can see here, this doesn't, yeah, I wore that part of my sheath off, which isn't, you know, bad. That's, you know, the retention strap, but the knife stays in the sheath anyways. But, yeah, let's just talk about why I love this knife so much. Let's actually start with the sheath, just since we have it out here right now. I think this is a perfectly fine sheath. It worked for everything I did with it. You know, carrying the knife like this didn't bother me. You know, it's a big knife, but it's not a huge knife. It wasn't, you know, like flopping around or, you know, bothering me just to wear it like that. My preferred way to wear a knife is scout style. And I could technically do that with this knife. I'd have to take this off and then, you know, put different attachments here. So that's cool that I could do that. And a couple of times I thought that maybe I would. But this worked out perfectly fine. You know, it held the knife at a really good place where it wasn't, you know, up high on my hip, you know, dinging into my ribs. It dangled nice and low. And especially in the woods where I'm, you know, if I had my tool bag, if I was fixing fence or something, I didn't really get in my way. But yeah. As for the knife itself, the ergonomics are perfect. You can see here, it swells out a little bit right there. A very, you know, neutral rectangular shape here. But the pattern on this rubber is absolutely excellent. You see you've got like grooves along the top and then kind of like dimpling on the side. It's getting late here. The sun's about to set, so the lighting may not be the best. But very good ergonomics, very neutral, but it's very grippy because of the rubber. Very comfortable. I've chopped with this. I've whittled with this. I've worked with this knife for hours with gloves, without gloves, and I always felt like it was just fantastic. You do have a guard here that's part of the rubber grip, and that works just fine, you know. You got a little lanyard hole here, which is cool. I never really used it. I'm not sure why. This actually would be a knife that I would be interested in putting a lanyard on, but I never put a lanyard there. Actually, I remember why I didn't. One of my only complaints with this knife, because when I did tie a lanyard there, my palm, as you can see when I'm holding the knife like that, my palm is actually over the lanyard hole, and so I kind of wish that it was moved back just a little bit, but yeah. The blade itself, SK5 steel, great stuff, honestly. Very tough, it's pretty easy to sharpen, actually holds its edge pretty dang good for carbon steel. It has impressed me with its edge retention. The knife itself is very thick, very robust. You know, you're not going to break it, right? The blade shape is excellent. You have a straight clip point, so you have a nice tip if you want to do any drilling. You have the, you know, bellies out a little bit up here, so if you're doing a long slice, it works out very well. I've chopped with this knife. I've batoned with this knife. And I wouldn't say it's the world's best chopper, just because it doesn't have, you know, as much mass as like a competition chopper has. But for a knife of this size, it actually chops ridiculously well. Just very good chopper. You can get a lot of good stuff going with there. Yeah, just the overall size of the knife too, speaking of size, is just really great to me. It's not too big and it's not too small. I do prefer this version. I haven't actually handled the compact, but I would imagine I prefer this one just because of the type of use I do. Again, I want this knife to be able to chop, baton, as well as cut and, you know, whittle and do all the other stuff that I need it to do. And this knife definitely does that. Very, very impressed with that. The most impressive thing about this knife, though, is that it's $45. That's a ton of knife here. And a ton of, especially for a knife that, in my opinion, is nearly perfect, you can't really argue with that. So the main reason I've decided to make this video now, you know, I've talked about this knife a lot. If you follow me on Instagram, you see during the summers when I'm out in the woods and stuff, I'm always posting about this. I'm going to have to get myself a new EDC fixed blade, or a new fixed blade, a new outdoors fixed blade, because unfortunately, you know, this one, like I said, is starting to show its age, and I've been really, I don't know what to get. One knife that I've tried recently, actually, is the Gerber Strong Arm. And there's a lot I like about this knife, but there's also a lot I don't like at all. I love the modularity of the sheath. I think the sheath is, you know, it's just a plastic sheath, but I do think it's pretty cool, you know, the modularity on it. The knife itself, I've been using this a lot as my, like when I'm going out in the field, collecting samples off, you know, doing geology stuff. This has kind of been my field knife recently, and it's definitely a tank. It's definitely very robust. It's very, you know, built to take a beating. But, you know, and it's made in the USA, which I love that. It's a good size, too. Let's compare it against the SRK. It's a little bit smaller. I do wish it was a little bit bigger, but no, it's a good size. Got a nice drop point here. The 420 steel is fine. But it's, I mean, this is double the price of the SRK. I do not like the 420 steel. Like, it's okay, but the SK5 or what, SK5, SK85, I think that steel's been rebranded, but it's just much better steel in my opinion. And holy crap, it just got cold. Like, whoo! You ever been in the mountains and then you just, like, that temperature just plummets? Yeah, that just happened. The sun's getting ready to sink right now. It's actually just barely peeking over the hill there. But, you know, there's a lot to like about this knife. But for me, this is not going to be my replacement for the SRK. And so I've been really struggling. I've been looking at all kinds of different fixed blades. I've been looking, at all my favorite retailers, like what is my next fixed blade going to be? Because, how do you replace something that's already perfect, right? So I wanted to hear, I want to hear from you guys, give me some suggestions. I'm willing to spend, up to $200 on a good fixed blade, maybe. Well, let's call $150. I'll buy something nice this summer for work, but, this knife has become such a part of me, and it's, it's weird. It's weird to get kind of like sentimental about a knife, but, this knife and I have been through we've been through some stuff. It's definitely, I rely on this knife with my life. When I'm out in the woods, this is not just a work knife. It also has to be a survival knife. If things go south, I want a knife that I can, really beat on and use hard to get me out of a sticky situation. So, yeah, this knife's going to be hard to replace, but I'm open to suggestions. As for this long-term review, yeah, for $45, this is probably the best $45 you can spend on a knife. I absolutely love this knife. It's so perfect. It's so well weighted and just ergonomic. The sheath is good. The steel is good. The build quality is good. It's durable as a tank, and it's a great knife. It's a fantastic knife. Probably my most recommended knife ever. So if you're looking for a good outdoor knife, a good fixed blade, definitely get a Cold Steel SRK. And I'll be honest, yeah, trying to think of a knife to replace this one is just like, it's weird, because this is such a great tool. But yeah, there we go. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, leave it a like, comment below, and subscribe. I've been Gideon. I'll see you in the next one. Adios.